Okay, so we're talking about how to complete the square. We're utilizing this to get the equation of a circle solved so that we can have the center and the radius. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give you the goal. Here is our goal of this. We want to be able to take y squared plus 4x minus 20 minus 2y equals negative x squared, and I want to put this in a format that looks more like the equation of a circle. The equation of a circle is something squared plus something squared equals r squared. And those somethings are normally an x minus h, where we're trying to figure out what this h is, and a y minus k. So really what we want to figure out is what h, k, and r go here to make this equation of the circle correct. So let's look at some examples of what's going on in these problems. If I start with a practice problem, let us say, for instance, how about we go from x minus 3 squared equals, 4 squared. Doesn't really matter. Let's just take a look at what happens in this problem. If I wanted to square this out, I don't just take the 2 and square the x and say this is x squared minus 9 or x squared plus 9. I have to actually say this is the entire parentheses squared, which means that this is the parentheses x minus 3 times itself, equal to 4 squared. Now we got to go back to distribution. And the idea of distribution that we had is that if we have something like, let's say, food, water, and clothes. So, I'm over here. Here we go. So, food, water, and clothing. If I have that and I go on a mission to a country who's been devastated by, let's say, a flood like a tsunami or a hurricane, and I need to help the people there. So we've got people A, B, C, and D. If I want to help these people, do I say, look, A, you're going to get food, and B, you're going to get water, and C, you're going to get clothing, and D, I guess you're out of luck. No, that's not what we do. We want to go around and make sure we're fair, and we give a little food to A, a little food to B, a little food to C, and a little food to D. So basically, we're going to distribute this F to all 4 pieces. And then we're going to come back and do the same thing with W, water. We're going to distribute it to all 4 pieces. And then finally, we're going to do the same thing with clothing. We're going to distribute it to all 4 pieces. So the key is that in our distribution, all the items on the left have to be distributed to all the items on the right in every combination. So up here we're going to use x times x. We're going to distribute that, and we're going to get x squared. Then we're going to use x times negative 3 to get negative 3x. So that has distributed the x to both of those. Now I'm going to distribute the negative 3. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And finally, negative 3 times negative 3 is going to be positive 9. And the right-hand side of this equation is not really that important right now. I'm really just trying to look for patterns. And as I look for this pattern, what I'm going to notice is that you're going to start seeing things happen over and over. I want you guys to pay attention to those 3 pieces right there. So this is going to be x squared minus 6x plus 9 equals 16. Okay, what if I was to work another version of this? What if I was to do another problem? So how about on this problem, I'm going to do y plus 1 quantity squared. And let's forget the equals and everything. Let's just see what happens. So this is going to be y plus 1 times y plus 1. And when I do my distribution, I'm going to do y times y is y squared. Y times 1 is 1y. 1 times y is 1y. And 1 times 1 is 1. So this becomes y squared plus 2y plus 1. Now, notice the same three items here. We're looking for things that happened common between these. So if you guys take a look at these two right here, you got a negative 3x and a negative 3x. Well, on the other side, you got a plus 1y and a plus 1y. So maybe we could say there's always going to be two of those middle ones. It's going to be two of them, right? And then this final thing is going to be the 3 times the 3, and that's going to give me the 9. So this is the square. It's been multiplied by itself. That's the same as being squared. Well, this is 1 times itself, and that's 1. So this is also squared. So I think that we could probably come up with a formula that shows all of this, and that formula would have something to do with an x squared plus 2 times something, because it gets doubled. We said there's two of them, plus that same something squared. Well, it can't really be that same exact something because this one has x's in it and the 9 doesn't. So maybe it's going to be 2 times something times x and then squared. Now we just need a name for that something. We're going to call it h. So let's examine this. Let's try this one more time. What if I start off with the equation? Sorry, I should say the expression. X plus h quantity squared. Well, that's the same as x plus h times x plus h. Now, if I FOIL this, if I distribute it, okay, then I get x times x is x squared. X times h is going to be hx. H times x is going to be hx. And h times h is going to be h squared. As I add these together, I'm going to get x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. This happens to be exactly like our formula that we came up with. All right, well, what does this mean for us? This means that whatever number ends up here is going to be twice the number we started with, negative 3. And whatever number ends up here is going to be the square of the number we started with. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. And we can see that down here. Look, the number that ends up here is going to be 2 times the number we started with, h. We start with h, this is going to be 2 times h. We start with h, this one's going to be h times itself, h squared. So the question is, can we do that in reverse? Can we go in reverse? What if I was to give you the answer and see if you could fill it in? What if I said, look, x squared plus 10x plus blank. What needs to go in that blank? And we'll say that equals 0 for right now. What needs to go in that blank to make this fit the criteria? Well, we said that 10 was going to be double the number. So what would be the number that 10 is double it? So if 10 is going to be, like here we had 3, and that ended up giving us 6. So what number would have been doubled to give us 10? What number can I double to give you 10? 5. Right. So this is really going to be x plus 5 and x plus 5, right? Let's try this out. What's x times x? X squared. What's x times 5? And 5 times x? 5x. What happens when I add 5x plus 5x? I get the 10x. And then what is the 5 times the 5? That's what I needed to go there. But can I just add 25 to one side of the equation and just call it a day? What do I need to do here? I added 25 to the left-hand side of this equation. Would the gods of math allow me to do this? Yes, there's gods of math. Euler and Euclid and all these crazy guys. So if I add 25 to one side, what do I need to add to the other? The same thing, golden rule of algebra. Add the same thing to both sides. Good. So this ends up being the quantity x plus 5 squared equals 25. Okay, great. So now that we got that one, let's try a couple more. So we're going to do this in reverse again. And I want to give you guys an equation. I want you to try to figure it out. How about x squared minus 14x plus blank? What's got to go in that blank to make this thing work? Don't say it out loud. Just raise your hand whenever you get the answer. Okay, got 1, got 2, 3, 4, 5. So what do you guys think has to go in these blanks down here? What has to go in there? So something to do with 7 maybe? How'd you guys get 7? Does it come anything from this 14? What is it? It's half of it, right? So it's half of 14. What's half of negative 14? So these should be negative 7s. Negative 7s. And so let's try this out. X times x is x squared. X times negative 7. And negative 7 times x is going to be negative 14. The question is, what is the last piece supposed to be? What's negative 7 times negative 7? That is 49. Now, this was an expression, not an equation. So normally I would have an equal sign, and I would add 49 on the other side as well. All right, and this means that this is going to be x minus 7 quantity squared. So I'm going to give you guys one more to do here. And I want y'all to try to do this one without me as much. So let's do x squared plus 16x plus 15 equals 0. Now, I'll go ahead and help you out with the first step. The first step, let's move the 15 to the other side. That way, he's just not even involved, and we don't have to think about him. So x squared plus 16x plus a big blank spot equals negative 15. Raise your hand when you think you know what goes in the blank. One. All right, let's go back to our pattern. Daniel, what do you think the answer is? So you think 8 is going to come into play here? Right. Because 8 is half of 16. That means that this is going to be x plus 8, and this is going to be x plus 8. Now let's try this out. What's x times x? X squared. X times 8? And 8 times x? So 8x plus 8x is 16x, and then 8 times 8 was... So we need to add 64 to both sides. Okay. What is negative 15 plus 64? Yeah, it's going to be 49. So this is going to be x plus 8, quantity squared equals 49. Okay, time to attempt our problem we were starting with. The problem we started with was on the very last page of our packet. It's this number 5. Okay, so I'm going to give you how to solve this one. I'm going to write it down again. We're going to get number 5 from the packet. So packet number 5. That problem is y squared plus 4x minus 20 minus 2y equals negative x squared. Now we're going to do this like house cleaning. I'm going to slide this up here for you guys. We're going to do this like house cleaning. Let's get everything arranged together. Gentlemen, you'll be picking that up after class. So let's get everything arranged together. Let's put the x's together and let's put the y's together. Right now I got two y's on this side. I got a y squared and a negative 2y, and I've got an x squared on the right-hand side and an x on this side. So I want to move the x squared by adding x squared to both sides. And I can pretty much add it wherever I want along here. It's not going to combine with anything, so I'm really just inserting it. But I'm going to put it right here in front, and I'm going to call this x squared plus 4x. And I'm going to move the y squared down here by the y, and I'm going to get y squared minus 2y. Now, x squared plus 4x plus this big open blank spot. And that is where we are going to learn how to complete these squares. Now, I still have a negative 20 on this side. How do I move the negative 20 to the other side? You add 20. So let's start by completing the first square. What should go in the parentheses for the first square? X squared plus 4x plus blank. What should go in that parentheses? Yeah, x plus 2, x plus 2. How about y squared minus 2y plus blank? What should go in that parentheses? Is it minus 2? So how do we get 2 from 4 here? Before we had 16 and we got 8. What's happening there? It's half, right? Before that we had 10 and we got 5. So on this one right here we had 4, that half of that was 2. So what is going to go inside this one if negative 2y is our middle number? What's the number that goes in here? What's half of negative 2? Negative 1. Negative 1. All right, so let's rewrite this one more time. And I can put these two together, and I can say this is x plus 2 quantity squared plus y minus 1 quantity squared equals, well, I got 20 over here, but I don't think that's necessarily done. That's not necessarily right. Shouldn't 20 have changed? I mean, shouldn't I have put something in these spaces right here? So let's check these out. X times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x, and 2 times x is 2x. Together, those go to be 4x. But what about 2 times 2? What does it become? So I need to add 4 here. And if I add 4 on the left side, I need to add 4 on the right side. Same thing here. Y times y is y squared. Y minus 1, and minus 1 times y is going to be negative 2y. And what's negative 1 times negative 1? Positive 1. So I need to add 1 to both sides. So I added it here. I need to add it over here. So this is no longer 20. It's 20 plus 5, which is 25. And we know that 25 is 5 squared. So I have successfully rewritten this equation in terms of our equation of a circle. X plus 2 quantity squared plus y minus 1 quantity squared equals 25. Now let me ask you, what's the center of this circle now? What's coordinates for the center of this circle? We just now did this before we started working on notes. What's the center of this circle? It's negative 2 and positive 1. And what's the R? Is it 25? It's the square root, which is 5. Good. Okay. Now, one more step that you have to do here. I'm going to rewrite this one on the page so we can see it on the page. All right, this is going to be x plus 2 quantity squared plus y minus 1 quantity squared equals 25. And we said that the center is the point negative 2 comma 1, and the radius is equal to 5. So let's go ahead and plot negative 2 comma 1, back 2 up 1, and yeah, the very last page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there we go. We're done.